Hello and welcome to the Let That Shift Go podcast. I'm Noel.
And I'm Lena.
And this is where we talk about the good, the bad, and all the shift in between.
We'll just talk mad shift.
Let's get into it.
And on today's episode, I have a very special guest, my new friend, Jason Fraser. We met just recently. He was recommended to me from a dear friend, Kara Johnson, who is an intuitive healer, whom I highly respect anyone she ever recommends that I should meet. She's vetting on all levels. So when I was fortunate enough to meet Jason at a recent meditation experience and he was introduced and we could hear his story, I was just intrigued. And I was like, I must immediately have you on here. I want you to tell your story and introduce you to the world, because the only thing stopping you and this complete expansion is just exposure. So I believe in all of the things the tenets of what you're teaching, and I'm excited to have you on. So welcome, Jason.
Beautiful. Thank you.
So let me just give you this opportunity to just introduce yourself. Your story is extremely interesting, exciting, and fun. And so just go ahead and just tell us who you are, why you're here, what have you been doing for 10 years?
So I'm Jason Fraser. I am a doctor of chiropractic, and my journey kind of began during my schooling for chiropractic. And I was an athlete, was kind of my identity. That's who I was. I was a wrestler. And through that, it kind of broke my body down. And I got to the point where I was battling a bunch of injuries. I had some head trauma from concussions and things like that. And it was right in the middle of chiropractic school where I started to learn the depths of chiropractic philosophy and understanding the power that the body has. And once I heard that and understood that, it was just like, it took my training to another level. And I was able to heal my body through movement, through breath, and through mindset. And I started to realize that the body has this unlimited potential within it. And so my injuries were pretty severe. They were going to do surgery. It was going to put 2 rods in my neck at about 19 years old. So I opted out of it, and chiropractic kind of led me down this path of healing. The first time I slept through the night after these injuries was after a chiropractic adjustment. And I went back to the chiropractor and I was like, what is this voodoo, And he started to explain the philosophy to me, and that started me on the journey. So with the failure of the sports and all this thing and this identity crisis that I had, I knew I needed to find something new. And so I started to push and I started to learn, different ways to do this. And what really struck me with chiropractic is that it's a belief that the body has this unlimited potential, and the goal is to tap into this potential, allowing it to do what it was meant to do, to heal the body, to strengthen the body. So from then on, I spent every minute I could learning how to tap into this power. Mm-hmm. And one of the first things I did was start to redesign the way I trained my body. And I started to realize that we're training in like this no pain, no gain, this push the body past its limits and break the muscles down, tear the muscles, let them regrow. And in school, I was learning that the physiological laws are not tear the muscles and it'll grow. It's stress the muscles and it will grow. And I started to back off a little and say, what if we just worked with the power of the body instead of forcing it? Mm-hmm. And with that, I started to see incredible healing within my body. And so that was the first taste of what you can really do when you start to connect with the body, harmonize with the body, and really get the body to do what it was meant to do.
Yeah. So
the movement was kind of the piece that changed my life and pushed me and propelled me towards these things. And so a little bit back to chiropractic philosophy, it's the ultimate goal, and the misunderstanding of chiropractic is most people think it's about pain. And it's can we get you out of pain? To have back pain, do an adjustment and it releases the pain. And what that is really happening is we're optimizing the nerve system. So when there's interference in the nerve system, it you lose the communication pathways from the infinite intelligence that knows what the body needs to the physical body and the matter of the body. And so chiropractic's purpose is to remove all interferences that happen mechanically within the body that stop that message from the infinite intelligence to the physical matter.
Mm-hmm.
And so chiropractors have deduced from this theory of there's an infinite intelligence, and that's a cause of disease or dis-ease, disharmony in the body by losing the communication lines, and that travels over the nervous system. So they found that if you remove that interference along the spinal column, then all of a sudden the body starts to have these like miracle things happen.
Right.
So with that concept, you can see that it's not only removing the interference along the spinal column, but there's three forms of interference that can happen that mess up this communication. And those three forms are thoughts, toxins, and then the mechanical traumas, right? And so chiropractic is a great way to go after the mechanical traumas and remove them from the spinal column. And that's why you have all these miracle stories with chiropractic. And it's not because chiropractic does miracles. It's because chiropractic gives the power back to the body, allowing it to perform the miracles, allowing it to do what it was meant to do with that unlimited power within. So once I realized that, and then I started to find different ways to remove those interferences. And because the chiropractic meaning of life is the expression of that innate intelligence through the physical matter. Mm-hmm. So 100% expression of your infinite intelligence within that can travel along those pathways in proper communication to the physical matter, that is 100% life.
Right.
So once I realized that, my goal became, how do we get 100% life? Yeah. Not only myself, but how do I share it with others? Yeah. And I love chiropractic, and the technique that I do is, it's a branch off chiropractic. It's a little more energy based.
Gentle.
It's gentle. Mm-hmm. It doesn't, it's chiropractic is over 100 years old. I think we can update it a little bit. Yeah. But maintaining the philosophy, that's the importance, because right now we've lost the philosophy, and we're like, no, I can move a bone and crack the back and pain will go away. Right. We're missing the key piece. We're missing that piece of the infinite intelligence being able to express itself through the physical matter. Right. So I worked with a chiropractor who developed a new technique called QSM3. It's super gentle and it releases the system. So instead of trying to go after the bones directly, you're releasing the system through the fascial layers. And when you unwind these fascial layers, the body pops up and open, creating space within, allowing for the nerves to, have their optimal tone, right, being able to transmit the signals properly.
They can communicate.
Absolutely. Yeah. And when it communicates, that's the expression of life, right? So I was having incredible results with this technique, and it's phenomenal. It works really well.
Yeah, it does.
But the problem that I was having was I traveled a lot. I was all over the place. I was studying and training, and I didn't have a clinic to be able to work with people. And then the other problem I had was it became a Band-Aid fix. Like, I need help. It's like, no.
Fix me again.
Yeah. And I was like, so I kind of developed a system where it was like, I'll work with you for 2 weeks. We can establish stability in the spine, but then it's up to you to maintain and strengthen and rebuild. And then I started to develop the 3 tools that I use to do that, right? Yeah. And so these are what I teach now is these tools, because I'm limited. I'm only one person. I can only adjust so many people. And I don't want it to be that exclusive, Right. So I started to put together these patterns, and they're all things that I've tested and have used in my life. And, going back to the damage of my spine and how I was able to heal that, it comes from the philosophy. How do I get the expression of the infinite intelligence to go through the nervous system and relate to my physical matter? Right. And by doing that, you just need subtle stimulus, right? So you can even feel with my adjustments are so gentle. It's like, are you even touching me?
Yeah.
It's like, yeah, all your body needs is a little bit of force that it can use to make the adjustments. Because that's one of the biggest misconceptions of chiropractic is I'm not adjusting you. I'm applying a force that your body can use that does the adjustments.
Mm-hmm.
So when your body's doing the adjustments, that opens the door to how can we create forces within that allows our body to do adjustments?
Yeah.
So the movement was the first and easiest way for me to show people how you can create a force within your body that allows you to maintain optimal health, right?
Mm-hmm.
That gives you enough force that your body can remove what in chiropractic term is subluxation. It's where the bones aren't lined up perfectly, therefore it decreases the signal in the spinal column. So you can remove those subluxations on your own if you had the proper amount of force within your body. Sometimes the body gets stuck. So I started to develop these movement patterns based off my adjustment technique. And some work by Thomas Myers, anatomy trains. It's the fascial layers. So if you can get those to start to move and synchronize and coordinate, the fascia surrounds everything in the body. So if it's coordinated and it has proper tone within the fascial layers, the entire structure of the body will be at its optimal space. Right. It'll be at its optimal function because structure dictates function, right? So if you have, collapses and breakdowns in the body, that structure is no longer functioning properly. So the goal was to give the function back, which is going to increase the communication and allow for that infinite to be able to express through the physical matter.
Right.
So I started by, utilizing what I was learning in chiropractic school, the concepts, the physiological laws that if you stress the body, if you stress the soft tissue, it'll grow. If you stress the bones, they'll grow. So the movement technique is all about consistent training that stimulates lightly what the body needs. And then it starts to produce growth in the body in the proper ways. And it's crazy because I always tell people, like, if you're sweating, you're probably going too hard. And like, they can't grasp that concept because we're told, no
go
pain,
big,
no gain.
go hard.
Exactly. And
I got to feel like I'm going to die in order to feel like I did something,
Exactly.
Yeah.
And so, and then if you look at like, and it's not that doesn't work. It's just not as efficient, right? There's so much extra.
Over time, it's going to catch up.
So I always say, like, people in the who go to a gym, it's like, find somebody who's been working out for more than 2 months that doesn't have some sort of injury, right? It's like, you shouldn't be training and it shouldn't like break your body down to get healthy.
Right.
That doesn't make sense. So I started to rebuild these concepts of working out and training. I was like, okay, so instead of, breaking down, instead of training to be really fit, right? Only like if you want to be a professional athlete or something like that, would you really want to be super fit? Because when you are in these high levels of fitness, you have to sacrifice some forms of health. Like, look at professional athletes. Like, they're not the healthiest. They're the most fit athletes, most fit people in the world, but they're not the healthiest. And so it was like, well, if we change, because your average person just wants to be healthy. So if we change our concept of working out towards health instead of fitness, all of a sudden we can optimize the body's health. And by being really healthy, you're actually at a really high level of fitness.
You do get to fit. Yeah.
Right. But it's a good kind of fitness. It's a good kind of health, right? So, and then health is the expression of the infinite intelligence.
Yeah.
So we need to increase communication pathways. We need to rebuild the structure. And then the body is functioning at its highest level.
Right.
And so, so focus on health. And then the other concept that I think people are messing up is we focus so much on the muscles. Well, the muscles adapt faster than everything else. So if you get your muscles to adapt really fast, this is the best way to grow muscle. What's going to happen to the ligaments and tendons? They're going to have so much stress on them that they're going to start to break down. Your joints, if you're not oiling them, and because they function different, right? They don't have a blood supply. You have to move the joints slowly and controlled in order to kind of squeeze in the synovial fluid, the the
lubricant.
lubrication. Yeah. So if you can, so people don't focus on their joints and they focus all on their muscles. So I kind of flipped that around. I said, if we focused on the nervous system, because obviously that's the communication pathways, right? And we optimize the tone of the nervous system, which happens to tone the body up, makes the body look good. You can have the optimal function of the body by optimal nervous system. If we can rebuild the fascial layers and synchronize them, the body will move fluidly and controlled and smooth and efficiently. And then if we build the tendons and ligaments and make them thicker and stronger, we can reduce all injuries.
Yeah.
So instead of focusing on the muscles, I don't do anything for the muscles. All I do is focus on the nervous system, the fascial layers, and the joints. And that creates a healthy body.
Yeah.
And so that became this new system of training that I do. I call it the essentials. And that's all I've done for almost 10 years now. And I'm more fit than I was when I was, a top tier college athlete. And so it just shows that consistency over time, focusing on the right tissue in the right way, can create the optimal body.
Right.
And so that's why I've built these patterns for people to take and do that, because when I do adjustments on people, it releases the fascial layers and all of a sudden you'll see postures change instantly.
Yeah. Sleep better.
That's
what I experienced. I was like, man, I never slept so hard,
And so that's optimizing the nervous system.
Yeah.
Your body needed that. So all of a sudden the communication, your body got the communication pathway of, hey, we need good sleep.
Yeah.
And so it gave you that.
Yeah.
And that's what it's about. But now I'm like, how do we maintain that? And so if you do these simple workouts, and I hate even calling them workouts, I call them movement, because you don't sweat when you do them. They're like 15 minutes.
Yeah.
But it keeps your body healthy and strong for the rest of your life.
Yeah.
Something I always tell people is like, don't you want to be able to play with your grandkids?
Yeah.
Like that's my goal. It's not to look good. It's not to, those are byproducts.
Those are byproducts.
Yeah.
They definitely happen. Yeah.
Because you're healthy. A healthy person looks and functions well. And so that's the ultimate goal. We need to change our mindset and change our focus on health over fitness. And that'll literally change the way your body functions, the way your body looks.
Yeah.
So that was the first piece. And that's one of my favorite things to teach. I love movement. I love the physical side of it. And it relates so closely with what I do for the structure of the body with my adjustments. And now it's like, it's literally built off the same patterns. When I look at your body and look at I assess your posture and it kind of shows me what's happening in the body, I use those same exact lines when I built the system of movement that I do. So now you're strengthening the body in this fundamental patterns that optimizes the body's health.
Right.
And so, that's the first tool that I use to untap your potential.
And there are 3 tools.
And there's 3 total tools.
Okay.
Yeah. So,
first one is that the physical part.
Yep.
Okay.
And I think that's the easiest because it's like the first step for people to start to gain awareness of their body and for people to start to understand how much control they actually have. Right. So a lot of what I teach, it's like, the concept is, and the brand is untap my potential. And the goal for untapping your potential, excuse me. So the goal for untap my potential is to optimize the function of the body. And you do that through the nervous system and getting a communication pathway. So I'll always keep coming back to that philosophy. And I know I've said it a bunch of times, but it's because it's so powerful. It seems so simple, but it's overlooked in almost every health field. Right?
Yeah.
We always think, oh, what's the supplementations I need to take? What's the nutrition I need to do? What's the external thing that I need? And it's not. It's all about what's inside of you.
Yeah.
And that's what my system that I've
It's like you have everything you need. How can you optimize what you have, right, in order
100%.
to untap that potential that's already within?
100%. So it's not that, you shouldn't take supplementation. It's not that you shouldn't follow your nutrition. It's not that you shouldn't go to a chiropractor and get chiropractic care. But it's those shouldn't be your first line of defense. Your first line is within you. And so everything I do everything I talk about is endogenous. It's from inside out. And that is the original chiropractic philosophy, inside out.
Mm-hmm.
And so I wanted to find more patterns and more systems that can allow for that kind of power from inside out.
Right.
How can we tap deeper into the powers of the body? And so the first, obviously, we just talked about was all the movement stuff. And it was diving into the different physiology, the different biochemistry, like what is happening with these movements that's allowing the body to function and become its best self.
Mm-hmm.
And then the more I studied, because movement came first, because that's what I loved and that's who I was. I was an athlete, and that's the...
You were in chiropractic school.
I was in chiropractic school.
You're studying.
And the structure and all that stuff. And then once I did that, I was like, okay, there's more. Like, what else is there? And a friend of mine actually showed me, he's like, oh, check this guy out. And it was Wim Hof. Mm-hmm. And so once I saw one of his videos, I was like, this guy's amazing. Like, and beyond the like cool stuff he was doing, I saw that his belief in the body, his belief in the mind, and the ability to connect the mind to the body and tap into these crazy powers that
infinite potential.
Exactly. He was able to do what I was theorizing could be done.
Yeah.
Right. And he was doing it.
Yeah.
And I remember being in school, I had about a year left, and I was like, someday I'm going to go talk to this guy. Someday I'm going to train with this guy. Mm-hmm. And then literally right when I graduated, I finished up my national boards, and I was just like, what do I do next? And I happened to get an email from the Inner Fire, the Wim Hof organization where they were doing a retreat. And I was like, done, I'm going. So I actually went and did the retreat and was able to actually like live in his house and train under him. And it was because it was really early on before he got too big.
Yeah.
And so I had this really, really neat experience of being able to talk with him.
You lived with him for like what, 6 months or?
Oh no, it wasn't quite that long. It was just a couple of weeks.
Okay.
But I was on a journey for a few months where once I did the training with him, I kind of like backpacked around Europe and started to apply different principles and live my life. But what I was learning under him was all I wanted to know was, how is he tapping into this, right? Like a lot of people who came for the retreat and stuff, they're just like, oh, I want to do 20 minutes in the ice. And I was like, I don't care how long I do in the ice. Like, show me how to tap into my autonomic nervous system. That's all I cared about. And I think that's what's been his method has been kind of like standardized too much. Mm-hmm. And we started to say, okay, you take 30 breaths and you hold your breath, and you're supposed to go 4 minutes with no breath, and then go back into the next round, and then your body alkaline, or, you can show that your body's gone alkaline, blah, blah, blah. But what we're missing is the control that you have, right? Mm-hmm. It's, you're able to control the chemistry of your body. You're able to control what endorphins are being released. And the importance of that is when stressors happen in life, and they always will, challenge and struggle is our opportunity to grow. But if we don't have the ability to tap into our body, the ability to control our autonomic nervous system, to stop that shock response, and then go in and approach the situation with control and with the proper chemistry, then life seems very chaotic.
Yeah.
And I think it's a skill that we all have, but it's not a skill that many people train. And so it's my desire to train that skill. Mm-hmm. And that's what I love about the breath, is it's a way to train that skill. So I always, lay claim to Wim Hof method is what showed me this, but it's beyond just that simple method. It's the concepts that he is showing through the method that is really important. And so that's why the second tool is the breath. And the goal of the breath is to be able to tap into some of the powers of the body. Mm. So where the movement rebuilt the structure of the body to optimize the flow, the communication, the breath is about supercharging the body. So how can we go in? How can we supercharge the nervous system with oxygen? Mm-hmm. And then how can we utilize that supercharge to handle different stressors that come at us? So when stressors come at us, we can take a minute, we can go into the breath, we can regain control of our chemistry, and then we can approach the problem with intelligence, with thought, with
From the
reason.
inside out.
Exactly.
Right.
So anytime we're bombarded with these stressors, which today I think we're hit with, more stressors more often than almost any time because of how many distractors there are, how many things are going on, right?
Yeah, constant.
It's nonstop. And so I think there's major issues with people like, these like mental health problems, right? And so untapping your potential is allowing you to handle both mental and physical problems. So it's optimizing both your mental and physical health as well. So the key to the Wim Hof method, and this is why, as soon as you go big in anything, you get scrutinized, right?
Yeah, for sure.
And so there's a lot of people.
You're going to get haters.
Yeah. So there's a lot of people kind of like talking bad about the method in a sense. And what they're talking about is actually probably right because it has been changed, right? And so I just want to bring back to his original goal, and it's to be like happy, healthy, and strong. And you do that by being able to handle stressors in life and not letting stressors take over.
Right.
His story's beautiful. And he found this because he went into depression because his wife committed suicide. And it left him in a very like weakened and destroyed state. And he was able to handle that amount of stress by his method. And that's what I want people to walk away with this tool is, breath is the tool, but his method is kind of the main piece that I use just because I love the concepts that he brought to the breath. And that's what I want to emphasize with this tool is you have the power and your breath is your control. So when you oxygenate the body, some incredible things happen, right? And there's some deep physiology where it's like you actually want less oxygen to get more absorption, blah, blah, blah. But just in general, when you take deep breaths, when you learn how to take long exhales to activate the parasympathetic, when you can activate your sympathetic through shorter inhales, and you start to learn these patterns and feel them.
Feel your body, yep.
So the method is just an outline for you to gain the skill.
Yeah.
And if you understand the concept of the mind and how the mind applies to the breath, then you have power. That is the untapped potential in you.
Yeah.
Right? It's not just, I did, a breath session every day.
Yeah.
It doesn't really work like that.
Yeah,
I mean, it does a little bit. You get some of the physiological effects, but you're missing the biggest piece.
Yeah.
That's the mindset.
Yeah.
And that's why the ice is such an important thing too.
Yeah.
Because it's not a toughness challenge. It's a tester to see, are you able to handle a stressor in a time of stress?
Yeah.
It's applying a controlled stressor that your body responds to. And then your mind has to override that shock.
Yeah.
And you have to control it with the breath.
Right.
In order to release the proper endorphins, in order to handle it without damaging your tissue of the body.
Yeah. I mean, you know what, when you told me that the other day when we were, doing the plunge, and that is my favorite part of ice plunging is because for me, it built mental resilience because I could see how when getting in, at first my mind is doing this whole thing about you're going to die. This is not okay. You should get out. And, at first it was like, I got to get out of here. I would just listen to my mind. And then pretty soon it was like, no, I'm not. I'm okay. And I could listen to my mind as like a separate thing from myself and just be able to connect with my breath and be able to get my body into a state that was relaxed and calm. And even getting out, I had this like, oh my gosh, I can do anything, and if I'm in a stressful situation, not inside the ice plunge, but just in life, it's like, I recognize, oh, that's my mind doing its thing.
Yes.
And I don't have to listen. I can actually return to my breath and just find a calm state, go into parasympathetic. And so it trained this part of mental resilience.
Yes.
And for me, that was the thing immediately that was like, I love this the most, that I can watch my mind and then tell it what to do and be in control of my body and then getting all these great physiological benefits. But
so because science has to measure things and we have to quantify things, the only thing it can actually measure when you're training yourself with the ice is what is happening physiologically.
Right.
So everybody's like, oh, I lose weight and get brown fat development, blah, blah, blah. And they look at all these like side pieces.
Yeah. Human growth hormone. Yeah.
But the truth is, what is the most powerful thing? It's being able to control your mind, the skill, that internal power that you have. Like you were just saying, like it's night and day difference when you do the cold from a toughness challenge versus doing the cold with a mental challenge. It is a completely different game.
Yeah.
And so that's what I love to teach. And when I put these things together in the workshops, that is the key piece. That's the challenge at the end. We've learned to, activate the body through awareness, and then we do the breath, and we learn to supercharge the body. And then we actually do one more piece, which we'll talk about in a second, the mindset, and how to amplify that a little bit stronger and what you're actually trying to do with that. But then you use those 3 tools to handle a stressor.
Right.
And then you're able to do that stressor in a comfortable way. And like, that's the epiphany most people have when they walk away. Everybody has a cool, flashy workout. Everybody has a cool, flashy breath session. Everybody has the cool challenge of getting in the water. But how do those things relate, and how do they make you better? And what do you walk away with?
Right.
What skill are you learning and gaining from those?
Right.
Right? Those aren't a test. It's not a test right now. It's a training. And if we can learn to train our mind and our body to connect as one, both through the awareness of movement, through the awareness of breath and what it's doing physiologically and biochemically, then we go into the mindset and we learn how to change the brain waves.
Yes.
Right? And with those 3 things, that's your true power.
Yeah.
That's that unlimited potential within us. And that's what we want to tap into. So I guess we can go into a little bit of the mindset stuff.
Yeah. That'd be awesome.
Yeah. So the third tool that I use and like to teach with this method is, I call it mindset just because there's some beliefs you have to have, right? So you have to have a growth mindset.
Yeah.
You have to believe that you can always get better, right?
Right.
Like everything is figure outable. Everything is learnable. Everything is a skill. And so if you have that mindset, then you can approach something and you can suck at it and you can be okay.
Yeah.
Because you can get better, right?
Yeah.
A fixed mindset is you try something, you suck at it, and you say, well,
I'm done.
That's it. This is as good as I'm going to get. That's not the truth.
No.
Right? That's an excuse.
Missing the opportunity. Yeah.
So if you have a growth mindset, you understand all this is possible. So that's kind of like the core underlying belief.